Hello viewers, 4DIYers here with an tutorial video for everyone. In this particular video here, I'll be doing a demonstration on how to repair stone chips on your vehicle's paint. Also, don't forget to check out my website at www.4DIYers.com or click on the link in the description below. Normally, I would recommend washing the vehicle down first to remove any contaminants which can affect paint's finish. But if this is done, it needs to be done a day before so the stone chips are free of any moisture. You can use a heat gun or a hair dryer to dry out the stone chips, but you need to be very careful not to damage the existing paint if the heat gets too intense. Next, wipe down the stone chips using a rubbing alcohol. This will remove any residue left over from wax, soap, or anything else that can affect the adhesion of the paint. You can purchase touch-up pens from the dealer, auto parts suppliers, or various online sources, but they can be quite pricey. Instead, I've purchased a can of paint that was mixed according to the paint color of my vehicle. This is a single-stage acrylic enamel paint, therefore it doesn't need a clear coat. As long as your vehicle's color hasn't been altered, this should be an exact match. Mix the spray can according to the instructions on the side of the can. Then spray it into a small container. Be sure to spray away from your vehicle or any objects you don't want overspray on, as it can be very hard to clean off afterwards. Using a toothpick, allow it to soak into the paint for a moment. This will make applying the paint to the chips easier. Now this does take a little practice. We need to have just the right amount of paint on the tip of the toothpick. You can roll it on the side of the cup to remove any excess paint. Now taking the toothpick, dab it into the stone chip and allow the paint to flow in. You may need to apply it a couple times to get it right. If you have applied too much, you can wipe it off with a cloth and start over again. It's no big deal. For larger chips, you need to help the paint flow through the chip, similar to a paintbrush technique. You want the paint to be ever so slightly above the surface of the existing paint, as it will shrink when it dries. Allow the paint to dry. Now if you wish, you can wet sand the paint, which will help it blend in furthermore into the existing paint on the vehicle. When moving on to the wet sanding stage, I would recommend allowing the paint to dry for 3 to 4 days to ensure it has hardened enough to work with. This will be dependent on the amount of paint you applied along with your climate conditions. Once the paint has dried, ensure that the area is washed so we won't have any contaminants when wet sanding. Have a bucket of water with soap mixed in, which will allow for lubrication during the sanding process. Pre-soak the sandpaper. We'll be using 2000 grit wet dry sandpaper. Ensure the area is wetted down first, then lightly sand the surface where the chips were located by applying medium pressure. Be careful around any panel edges and don't sand the surface too much where it'll wear through either the clear coat or the paint. What we're trying to achieve here is to smoothen out the high spots on the chip touch-ups. Continuously rinse the sandpaper on the surface to remove any debris from the sanding process. Next, rinse off the area and ensure it is dry. We will be polishing the area using a polishing compound. I'm using Meguiar's Ultimate Polish. Apply some of the product to a soft cloth and work it into the surface. This will remove any scratches from the wet sanding process. The surface should be highly polished when we're done. Then we can move on to applying a wax to protect the surface. For this, I'm using Mother's Carnauba wax. Work the wax into the surface, then allow it to haze over, and then remove using a microfiber cloth. This concludes the rest of my tutorial video. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to post them below. Also, please subscribe to my channel and like my video. Thank you for watching.